Gentle people, hello, I am Non, and you are watching the Friday Ace of Spades website review. Today you are going to learn two painfully common problems with navigation, and how to fix them. And to illustrate this, we're going to be looking at the untrainedhousewife.com. Thank you, Angela. And as always, we're going to be using the Frodo conversion rate checklist, which has managed to maintain its name for the last couple of weeks now, so I'm hopeful that it will continue to be called that. And that consists of first reaction, orientation, desirability, and offers. Not neglecting Odo, which is the core of the checklist, and not forgetting that all of the elements involved in that core need to get attention using contrast and eye path. Let's have a look at the site now and get our first reaction. How does it make me feel? The colors are a little subdued. They are somewhat... I struggle to find a word. They're not dull, but they kind of make me feel that way. Apart from that, it looks well designed, and there isn't anything terribly wrong with it. It just gives me a slightly amateurish feeling because of the colors and because of that big header with the how would you say, obviously photoshopped, untrained housewife text, and I'm not sure what to say about the woman who is clearly out of like Poser or something, one of those programs. I would suggest that probably an actual woman would work better, but my first reaction is that it's okay but not great. More importantly, orientation. Am I in the right place? First reaction gives us a sense of the site, but the orientation is where we really start to feel whether we're going to be hanging around or not. And the orientation here is... there are a lot of elements which give us a sense of orientation, but not a lot of elements that really tell us exactly where we are. I see that it says a community of mothers and homemakers sharing housekeeping tips and tricks. So that does give us a pretty good sense of where we are, but the text itself is not easy to read because it's superimposed on top of this image. It's in a similar color to the image itself, which makes it tricky to spot. And A, it's small, B, it's quite tight, it's very condensed text, and C, it's got this bevel on it which makes it difficult to actually read. Having the background shadow is probably a good idea because of the fact that it sets it apart from the image slightly, but the bevel on it makes it difficult to read. Other stuff, we can tell from the general layout, the fact that it's got recent posts down here. That will give us a good sense of the fact that it's a blog, as does the general layout. I mean, these are obviously blog posts. That's pretty standard. We're quite accustomed to seeing that these days. However, in terms of telling me anything more than that, it doesn't give me a lot of information. Normally, if you talked about a community, you would expect to see more than just a blog, so I'm wondering, in terms of a community of mothers, what else is there around here? Which leads me into my main point. Desirability. Do I believe I'll gain more than I invest? Well, in this case, what I invest is really probably going to be time. And the first thing that I look for when I try to answer this question is a heading or a headline, and I see some blog post headlines, which is good. Culinary herbs as home remedies, and new mom's bliss, but I don't see anything that relates specifically to the site. I see stuff that relates to things about the site, topics on the site or categories on the site, but I don't see anything about the site itself, which, unless I'm actually interested in these specific categories, is a bit of a problem because it means that I'm likely to not stick around. Moreover, and this is heading more into the area of offers, but because there aren't any actual offers on a blog, I'm going to talk about it here. We've got this problem with navigation. There are two problems. The first is that when I want to learn more about a site, if I feel like I'm in the right place enough to look for more information on the site, the first thing I look for is an about page, and I can't find it. Literally, it took me a long time to spot it. Maybe you're different, but I did not notice this bar at all. it isn't that it's in the wrong place per se. A lot of websites do have a navigation bar there, and that's fine. The problem is more that this image here immediately grabs your attention, which means that this is where your eye path starts. You just don't look above it. There's nothing above there as far as your brain is concerned. And secondly, this navigation here is so obviously, it's very prominent, it's obviously there, your eye catches it immediately. As soon as you look past the image, there's a navigation, which is good, it's what you want. But because of that, you just assume that that's the only navigation element there is. So you've got this issue where the primary navigation, which contains the about and the forum and the newsletters and so on, is actually being completely hidden because the secondary navigation is in the correct place for navigation on the site. Now, if you moved the primary navigation down above the secondary navigation but below the image, then you wouldn't have any problems because it's connected. The most important thing with navigation is not to have a single navigation element, which can be useful, but I mean, in many instances, and this is probably one of those instances, it's simply not realistic to have one navigation element. Often you need to have a primary and a secondary navigation element. So you've got your primary, which contains about and contact and all that kind of thing, and then you've got secondary navigation, which contains things like categories or posts or those sorts of things. The important thing, in order for people to be able to readily identify them and be able to readily use them, is that they are connected. So not only are they obviously visible, and this element here is not using the ACE principle, it's not getting any attention because A, there's very little contrast, it's very subdued, and B, it's not in the correct eye path, whereas this one is. Not only do you need to make sure that you're using that ACE principle, but if you want to make sure that your navigation elements are obvious, you need to be sure that they're connected, because people expect navigation elements to be connected. It makes sense that they are connected. So if you, for example, had a sidebar instead of having two horizontal bars, you would want the sidebar to appear here, actually physically connected to the horizontal bar, and the same on the left-hand side. Moving on to offers, and again, as I say, there aren't any actual offers on this website because it is a blog, but do my goals match the available options is really the question which is in your prospect's mind. And the prospect is probably thinking, well, okay, I'm interested in, I don't know, say, hobbies is an obvious one that jumps out because it's here, and it's about the only item on this navigation bar, apart from home management, which actually stands out as being meaningful to me. So say I'm into photography, where would I look? Okay, I'm probably going to go to hobbies because nothing else on the navigation bar makes sense. However, the problem is that if I'm not into hobbies, if I'm into, say, finding out more information about dads, where am I going to look? I have no idea. Heartbeats is a very whimsical name for a navigation element, but it is not a self-explanatory name. And the fact is that people don't click on elements which they don't understand. People don't click on links when they don't know where the link will take them. So you've got family room. I really have no idea what the family room is, and when I mouse over, I see that it's got education and so on. You've got heartbeats, and I've got no idea what that is either, and when I mouse over it, sometimes, I see that it's got stuff to do mostly with community, with families. You've got hobbies, which is fairly self-explanatory, so that's good. You've got home management, which again is self-explanatory. Homestead, not so much. Kitchen table, it's pretty much on the border. I would go with something more like kitchen stuff. And your medicine chest, well, again, it's a little bit whimsical. Simply talking about medical care or something like that would probably be better. So the two takeaways for today are really to do with navigation. Firstly, you want to be sure that your navigation elements stand out using the ACE checklist, but that goes without saying because that happens for everything that I talk about. So the first main takeaway that you want to think about is that your navigation elements, once they've got your user's attention, need to be connected to each other. If they're not connected, then they probably aren't going to be related to each other in the user's mind. They won't be as easily recognized as navigation elements. And the second thing is that your navigation elements need to be very, very clearly named. Rather than having something that says medicine chest, simply say medicine. Rather than having something that says heartbeats, simply say family. If you do not have self-explanatory navigation text, very few people will actually click on it, unless obviously they're long-time visitors, in which case that's fine. But you have to remember that if you're wanting to build a website, if you want to monetize a website, if you want to start establishing a good community, you need to be very welcoming of new people as well as old. And those sorts of things, especially navigation is extremely important for making new people feel like they understand where they are and that they can find things easily and are welcome. So, use self-explanatory link names. Keep your navigation elements connected. Those are the 2 takeaways for today. Thank you, Angela. Comments, questions, or hate mail, as always, you may email non at informationhighwayman.com, as BNONN at informationhighwayman.com. And if you haven't already, you probably should sign up for free lessons in marketing, because pretty much every weekday, except for Mondays, you will get some kind of useful tip on marketing, copywriting, business, sales, all those sorts of handy things to make you more money. And you can sign up for free at www.informationhighwayman.com/ace. And until next Friday, which is when the next review will be, I am Non. Thank you for watching.